Hi, my name is Chris Hershka, also known as Chris Shapiro. I am the co-creator, director, writer, editor, and also a star of Station TV. This is a behind-the-scenes look at our first season, which consisted of 5 episodes. So please sit back and enjoy.
Station TV really began from 2 concepts, really. The first being The Office, which is probably the most evident within the show. We copy their style, especially with the interviews. The interviews are great because what it allows us to do is condense more of a story into a shorter time, so we can say something happened and we don't have to film it, which is great, seeing as how we don't have a lot of time to do certain things. So it's time saving. Also, sort of like their humor, some of the characters that they have, we've kind of copied off of and altered a little bit. Now, the second television show that we copied off of, or was an inspiration rather, was the Mary Tyler Moore Show. My mother is a very big fan of the show, so I've seen quite a few episodes, and going into broadcast, it was something that I kind of was just exposed to, and I kind of assumed that's what television was like. I mean, I really didn't have any other inside scoop to how broadcasting world operated. I had Mary Tyler Moore Show and the movie Network, and that's really all I knew going into college about broadcast. That's what I was exposed to. But from the Mary Tyler Moore Show, I really borrowed from Ted Knight. He was the head anchor there, and he's great because he's so over the top, and he thinks he's great, but he's horrible. And I just love that kind of a character where they're so full of themselves, but in reality, they're horrible. So Doug became Ted Knight, in a sense. A more energetic, more athletic Ted Knight, but Ted Knight nonetheless. At the beginning, there was a script. I wrote the script. The script was about 15 pages or so. It actually combined the first and second episode as one. There was a competition here at ETV. Whoever could create the best new show of the season along those lines would win $100. So I had this script, but I had nobody on board. It was just me. I had this idea. I knew what I wanted to do with it. I had this concept, but I really had no means of doing anything. I didn't even know the studio was really here that much. It was just one of those things that I knew existed, but I'd never been here. So luckily, I started taking a class TV production, so that got me into the studio, and I got to kind of learn this environment. Professor Wirtz was instrumental in me learning this studio. Without him, I really would not have learned anything about this studio or how to take a concept and put it onto a television format. So he really helped me at the beginning, because I had the script, and then I was introduced to the studio, so then I could see, well, okay, I can take the script and I can apply it this way and kind of bring it together for an actual TV show. But I still didn't have anybody. So luckily, Anthony found out about the competition that was going on, the $100 prize. And actually, he was like, do you want to do this? I'm like, actually, I already have a script written. Why don't you read it and see what you think? He read it, he laughed out loud, he thought it was funny. He's like, yes, let's do this. Who else do we need on board? And I'm like, well, there's just me and you. So we were really shopping around our friends to see who was available and who would be comfortable in front of a camera and who could actually act and be entertaining and actually, make sense to be on the show. So we went to Dan Finger. I love Dan. He's like a brother to me, but he's also crazy. He will tell you he's not crazy, but trust me, he's crazy. He plays video games all day. The Rat episode where video games, it's based on video games, that's really his life. He does take it to real life. 48 hours, all weekend, he'll play nothing but video games. Knock on the door, hey, Finger, what are you doing in there? Oh, playing video games, bro. Okay, you want to go get something to eat? No, I got to play video games, bro. That's all he does. But when you get him away from the video game and when you break him out of his kind of day in, day out routine, he's a hilarious kid. I mean, some of the stuff he does is just unexpected, and it's gold. When you get him in his prime, it is gold, and I love it. But he can't remember lines. He's horrible at improv. He thinks he's great. He's horrible because his improv usually, it consists of him like swearing or saying something, that the FCC wouldn't air, so we can't use it. But I love Dan, and without him being on the show, we would not have had that energy, I feel, that we needed. It is unfortunate that he is transferring at the end of the semester, so we started to write him out early on. We started to phase him out in the 4th episode, and the 5th episode we fired him. Okay, so we had Dan on board, so we needed someone to play the Linda character. And I really didn't know anyone who I felt could play the character. And it needed to be someone who was funny, but also serious, and someone who had class, but someone who was just everyday. So it was a balance of both fields. You needed someone who could play a multiple of things and have a unique personality and be willing to, be the butt of some jokes. I mean, Linda likes some strange things like rats and different things like that. So, I mean, you have to be willing to put your image out there and be okay with that. Yeah, I like rats. That's cool. So we needed to find a girl who would be willing to be like that. And Jess was the girl. I love Jess. Jess is awesome. The first time I saw Jess, I was actually outside the ETV studio, and I didn't want to go into the studio because I didn't know anyone. Anthony was with me, but we were outside the studio, and we're like, we don't want to go in there. We don't know anyone. But then we saw Jess walk into the studio, and I was like, wow. I just really, I was like, who is this girl? Yeah, she had like class, and she was just like this mystery girl who walked by, and I was like, wow, I'd like to go out with her sometime. So it's like, we got to get her on the show. So Anthony had class with her, and she was willing to work with us. She was really excited about it. She had told us that some people in her high school had done a show like this, and she was excited to be part of this because she never got the chance to be part of it in high school. So Jess was really excited. I was excited to have Jess on board. I thought she had a great personality, because that's really what I look for in people who I cast. I look at their personality. I'm like, are they unique in a certain way that other people are going to want to watch them? Are they just regular run-of-the-mill, or is there something about them that catches your eye and keeps your attention for 15, 20, 30 minutes? Because if the answer is no, then if I don't want to watch him, you're not going to want to watch him. So Jess was on board, but we needed someone to play Roxanne. Roxanne is the classic bimbo. Really, she's the one who's always worried about her makeup, her nails, different things like that. So we had to find someone, again, who was comfortable playing that role. And at first, the role went to Erica David. Erica lived on my floor. She was a neighbor of mine in my dorm. And I love Erica. Again, she was great because she would come onto the set, she would look at the script, and in less than 5 minutes, you could do a scene with her and nail it, because she could just embrace the character. And I was really impressed with how good she could improv and really be that character. I mean, it did. Like, as soon as the camera was on, she got it and she would nail the scene. The only thing that would hold us back would be, Dan Finger would forget his line, so that would slow us up. But Erica's really willing to work here. But then we kept working on Friday nights, and it was a conflict of interest for her. She had different things going on, and she wouldn't be able to be here. So we replaced the Roxanne character with Mara. And Mara was actually the girl I wanted to have play the character from the beginning, but I didn't really know Mara that well, and I didn't feel comfortable coming on and saying, hey, do you want to do this show that I'm doing after school on Fridays? I didn't really know her that well. I wasn't friends with her. But luckily, we had class together the following semester, and I got to be friends with Mara. I said, hey, I need to replace this character. Are you willing to come on board? She was really excited. She came on. She actually was on board for a second episode, which was the rat. It was a little difficult for her because everyone else already had one episode under their belt. So we knew the equipment, we knew the routine, and Mara was coming in a freshman while we were all sophomores. So it took her a little while to learn different things and kind of get used to her character, to embrace it. But by the third episode, which was the pig float, Mara nailed it. I love Mara on the show. She's really funny, and she's great to work with. I mean, Mara cracks me up. I watch some of the footage that we get that we can't run in the show. It kills me. I mean, I'm in there, and it's just, she's funny. She's a hoot. I love it. But overall, I would have to say Anthony is by far the best person here, the best actor, all around, because he's been here since day one, and he has helped me in so many ways. He's been here for me. He helps out. He knows the equipment. He'll catch things that I don't see. And without Anthony, the show probably would have crumbled, because I really did need a solid foundation, a person I could rely on. And he's been here every Friday with me. He stays with me until about 10 o'clock, and then I stay about till 1:30 editing. Usually we start about 1:30 in the afternoon. We film shots, we take a break, we film more shots, we take a break for dinner, then we come back and we watch some of the footage, our dailies, and then Anthony and other people will leave around 10 o'clock at night, and then I'll stay here about 1:30 in the morning, editing everything down and getting the final product. The show, I think what I learned most about the show is you start with an idea. And the idea is just in your mind. You're like, oh, I'd like to do this. It'd be a good thing. It's a good story. Then you type it out, you get the script, and it changes. You're like, well, that idea doesn't really fit that way. You got to, work with it a little bit. So then you got the script, and you're like, okay, this is great. I'm going to get every line, every scene, going to get it like this. I see it in my mind. Then you bring the script into the studio. And I don't want to say the script's out the window, but a lot of the things are just thrown out, and you got to work with what you have, because you're in the studio and you're like, okay, that angle's not going to work like I thought it would. This thing's broken. I'm going to have to work around this. He changed his lines here, so I'm going to have to change the lines further down. Instead of saying a certain name, he said this name, so everything changes. And the script is really rewritten as you're filming. So you go in hoping for one thing, and you come out with another. And you have to be prepared for that and willing to work with it. You might be able to say, well, we wanted to have, for example, we want to have a basketball. Well, we have a football. Okay, we're going to have to change the storyline a little bit. And you have to make sure that you stay with that throughout, because if you have basketball written in the beginning and you don't change it, it's going to screw everything up. So you really have to pay attention, take good notes with your script, and work with it the best that you can, but be willing to change everything. No, don't be attached to anything that much that you can't be willing to lose it. You have to be willing to lose your work and almost start from the ground up. It's just one of those things that happens. So the script's done. Now you have the footage. You go into the editor, and you're like, okay, this is what I have to work with. Not what I want to work with, but what I have to work with. So you're going through, and you're like, wow, I really need a scene to go in between these two because it's too quick. The action's going too quick, I need to slow it down. Or the opposite, it's going too slow, I need to speed it up. Or I can't have these two scenes back to back because this person's there and then this person's there. How'd they get to there? I need filler. So you have to really work around with what you have. And it teaches you to really think outside the box and be creative of how you can fill those gaps in and use other footage that you didn't intend to and work it in. So again, you're reworking your idea. The whole process is just reworking the same idea. You start with the idea, you write it, then you direct it, and then you edit it, and it's changing throughout. It's always evolving into something new. And even at the end of the day, when it's published on YouTube or on our campus station, it's like, I could have done that differently. I'm like, I really should have added this in or had it this way. So it's never ending. You can always go back and work on it, and it's always evolving. And the show really taught me that whole process of being able to take an idea and follow it through all the processes and being willing to craft it and work with it and change things and not be so dead on getting this scene and having it this way, that you just be willing to work with it, because the show really does flow. When you're filming, when you're editing, everything flows, and you really just have to go with it. And if you fight it, it's going to cause a lot of frustration for everyone, and you may not get the best results, and you may not even get what you really want at the end of the day. I know from my experience that there have been some really great scenes that I hadn't written at all, but they're probably some of the best scenes in the script, or in the show, rather. For example, Anthony and I did some ad-libs in the back corner during the episode of The Rat. None of them were written. We just got in the back, and we're like, hey, throw a camera on us, we're going to say some funny stuff. It was funny. And it worked, too, and it was great filler. Like I said, you always need other footage sometimes to fill in between two other scenes. Another example is, I believe during the Rat episode, when Dan starts beating up the light. I was in the studio, Dan walked by the light, and he just smacked it. I said, hey, that's really funny. Go do that again. I'll spin the camera on you, and I'll get a minute's worth of footage. I had no intention of using it, but when I was going through and editing, I'm like, I really need something to fill in between these two scenes. Hey, wait, I got Doug doing this. Put it in, and it's really funny. It cracks me up every time I see it, and I'm so glad that I took advantage of that in the studio. So thank you for watching, and hopefully we'll be back next season with more episodes. It's been fun. I'd like to continue the show. Hopefully, as long as our schedules aren't too crazy, we'll have a second season of Station TV. So Thanks for watching, and thanks for being a fan of the show.